Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Friday morning, the 25th of October, and let's hope that the jury in the Leilani Simon trial have the Friday feeling this morning, because we were 2 hours into verdict watch yesterday and it got to 5 p.m. Eastern and the jury wanted to go home, so they are resuming deliberations this morning at 9 a.m. I'll be live on this channel from 9 a.m. and we will wait together. We'll wait together throughout the verdict. I'm confident it's going to come today. I am very confident it's going to come today. In the Sarah Boone trial, well, we're a little bit behind. We're close to closing arguments. But Sarah's attorney, Mr. Owens, well, aren't they just the perfect pair? Can't that man argue? But the videos that were played about Sarah's, past 911 call-outs where she's just completely wasting police time, absolutely outrageous. I think that has undermined Sarah's defence a lot. However, the trial continues there. But in this video, we are talking about Delphi. Yesterday was day 6, and Sheriff, this is hilarious, Sheriff Tony Liggett, between him and Steve Mullin, who was the Delphi chief of police at the time of the murders, I don't know what the jury must be thinking, so let's talk about it.
It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
Before an angry Andrew Baldwin left the courthouse, 13 News overheard him speaking to Richard Allen's wife, saying, "It ain't over. The world's watching. The world sees what's going on."
Alright, so yesterday was largely a day of law enforcement. Brought to the stand is Tony Liggett, who, although he's the sheriff, and he was elected sheriff just a few days after Richard Allen was arrested. Isn't it interesting? Yeah. I was sitting thinking yesterday when they had Cassie Shank, she was the first witness yesterday, and she was a volunteer who was sorting out all the paperwork. Like, she'd managed to file 14,000 tips of the 50,000 plus that came in. There was just one tip related to Richard Allen, and that was self-generated, because on the 16th of February, so just 2 days after the girls were murdered, Rick Allen rang in and said, "I was on the trail that day." So Dan Doolin, who I call Dan Dullard, was tasked with interviewing him, and it made it sound like Rick Allen was being evasive, but I don't think he was at all. He was, I think, out shopping when Dan Doolin rang him on the 18th of Feb. He met Dan Doolin immediately. He said, "Meet me in a parking lot where I am and I'll speak to you immediately." And there you go. So that was the tip that Cassie Shank found on the 21st of September 2022, and that tip had been cleared. So there's some funny business going on here. If you were a conspiracy nut, if you wanted to, just teeter on that rabbit hole, you might say, well, maybe these volunteers were tasked with looking through the tips. Yeah, they may have been filing, they may have been doing a job already, but look through the tips to see if there's any men who, in the age range that we're looking for from Delphi, who we can investigate. So she pulls out this tip that says cleared on it. So where's her authority to decide otherwise? She took it to Tony Liggett, and here we are. Tony Liggett on the stand, and I'm going to read this from WTHR. They've had like a running blog throughout the day, so they've got some exchanges that happened in court. So I'm going to read both parts. State's 23rd witness, Carroll County Sheriff Tony Liggett. He's important. He's a sheriff now, wasn't then. However, he was the lead detective representing Carroll County Sheriff's Office. So, 2:08 p.m. The state's 23rd witness is Carroll County Sheriff Tony Liggett, serving as a detective at the time of the murders. Liggett said he wanted to talk to the person who passed Brianne Wilbur and Rayleigh Voorhees. We believed he was Bridge Guy, Liggett said. Rayleigh Voorhees we talked about the other day, who absolutely did not see Rick Allen. We believe that was Bridge Guy. Liggett said he watched a video taken from Libby's phone hundreds of times. Well, people in the court, again as we discussed the other day, didn't really see Bridge Guy. Bridge Guy has been so enhanced, it may as well be AI. You know, the program used to make Bridge Guy miraculously appear. Make of that what you will. This doesn't make sense. This must be a mistake. According to Liggett, people said the vehicle at the Hoosier Harvest store was backed in. It was never parked at the Hoosier Harvest store. And so what if it was backed in? Some people, when they park, they back in. So what? They back in and they can easily drive out. When they went to CVS to look for Alan's car, it was backed in. So what? Lots of people back cars in. That's insane. Alan had a lifetime handgun permit. Okay, so do many other people. Liggett said Alan admitted to being on the trails on February 13th but changed his story. Did he though? Because we've only got Dan Doolin's word that he said he was on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30. When he was questioned in 2022, he changed it to noon to 1:30 p.m. If he was the murderer, he wouldn't have said he was on the trails at exactly the same time the girls were murdered in the first place, would he? He was kind of wishy-washy about where he parked. All right, okay. Was he? Liggett said they found Alan's .40 caliber Sig Sauer P226 in a bedroom nightstand. Liggett said that was the same caliber of bullet found between the bodies of Abby and Libby. Well, when Dan Doolin was cross-examined, he said, you know, it's hunting territory. There's loads of unspent rounds. There's loads on the ground. It could be anybody's. We've not got to the crime scene tech for Indiana State Police. And one of the defence's experts that they wanted to call, William Tobin, was objected to. And guess what? Judge Francis Gull has agreed and he has been denied. He has been denied. Can't call him as a witness, even though he worked for the FBI as a metallurgist for years. No, can't call him. Not expert enough. Okay. I'd love someday to have been doing a running tally of how many times Judge Gull hampered the defence by sustaining objections and all of the stuff. Because there seems to be quite a few objections. I'd like to know. Alright, Liggett said they found another .40 caliber Winchester round in a keepsake box in a bedroom dresser. They found more .40 caliber Blazer ammo. So what? Liggett said they also found a blue Carhartt jacket in the main entry closet. Liggett said the guns found during the search were sent to the lab. The ATF traced the guns and found they belonged to Alan and no one else. So what? He's got a license for them. Alright, during cross-examination, Brad Rosie noted that Liggett was the chief deputy when Alan was arrested. Rosie said Liggett was running for sheriff at the 2022 election. Objection! Sustained. Liggett got a $50,000 raise that came with moving from chief deputy to sheriff. Well, there would be an incentive to become the sheriff. He was in trouble. The man that was running against him was gaining steam, he was gaining momentum. So, oh look, an arrest at that time would have been brilliant. They'd worked for, over a month in the Wabash River, trying to find whatever Kegan Kline had led them to. Or not. And that didn't pan out, so they needed something else to get Liggett over the line. I see, Rosie asked Liggett if he ever thought how an arrest would benefit him. Liggett said it had nothing to do with him. It was about 2 little girls who were murdered. Okay, yeah, all right. Tell yourself that so you sleep at night. Rosie questioned the integrity of the crime scene, saying pictures of the scene were leaked. Liggett said he thought the sticks on the bodies were for concealment. He said nobody saw them. nobody saw them until they started looking in that direction, because initially they were looking downstream because they thought the girls had fallen off the bridge, which is a perfectly logical thing to think. That would be my thought. If I was part of the searchers there, I'd have taken one look at that bridge. I'd have said, if they're walking on here, they've fallen off. That would be my theory. So I would go looking downstream. When you say nobody saw them, well, they were found within a few hours, dear me. Rosie asked about witnesses who saw the bridge guy. Rosie said the search warrant was based on a timeline of seeing a man on the trail. Rosie noted one witness described the bridge guy as tall and muscular. Yeah, really. Liggett said he understood why witness Sarah Carbo said she was panicked. Yeah, because it took her weeks to report that she saw this man as she was driving at 30 to 35 miles an hour. She passed a man. She said she had a good look at him for 30 seconds. Who, when you're driving at 30 to 35 miles an hour, has 30 seconds to really study a guy who is muddy and bloody? Come on. Sarah Carbo's made that up. Made it up. 2 girls were killed, Liggett said. I can understand that panic. Rosie and Liggett discussed there was many dark Ford Focuses. Liggett did not know how many had that kind of rim seen on the video. Rosie asked if Liggett would be surprised to learn Ford mass-produced them. Liggett said no. Rosie asked if Liggett was aware that in 2019, Indiana State Police... Doug Carter relieved the FBI of duties in the case. Liggett said no, and that he would be surprised. Well, that's what happened. You know this. Richard Allen was never a suspect from 2017 to 2022, Rosie said. Liggett said Allen got lost and fell in the cracks. No, he was cleared. It said cleared on his farm. So what did you do to clear him? Anything? No cracks falling when you've got written on the form, cleared. Rosie said that a 5-year delay would impact the memory of Allen, witnesses, and Allen's wife. Do you believe Richard Allen acted alone in this case? Yes, Liggett said. Rosie asked if Liggett always believed Allen acted alone. He said yes. Well, that wasn't the opinion of Nick McClellan, was it, when Allen was first arrested? It wasn't the opinion of Doug Carter, was it? You know, he said, this case has many tentacles. Many tentacles. He's such a creeper. Rosie asked, there has never been any DNA of Richard Allen collected at the crime scene. None, Liggett said. Rosie asked if there was any digital evidence linking Allen to the scene. Liggett said no. That man held himself out for law enforcement 3 days after the murders, Rosie said. Liggett said yes. And Dan Doolin checked Rick Allen's phone, took the identification number of it, and then just gave it back to him. Didn't check the contents nor nothing. So, Rick Allen was hardly being evasive, was he? No. Rosie said that Allen didn't flee the community. Liggett said he was hiding in plain sight. Oh, Doug Carter's words. Oh, would you look up to Doug Carter? Rosie said it was the bullet that led to the arrest of Allen. Liggett said that's what put us over the hump. And that is based on some very shaky science. So you needed the confessions, didn't you? You needed the confessions. That's why you locked him up in solitary confinement for months and months and months and months. You literally drove him insane. And you got your confessions for what they're worth. Regardless of what you guys think who come in my comments, I see you. These are false confessions. Rosie said that witness Betsy Blair told police she saw a man who was boyish and beautiful with brown poofy hair. She described the man as in his 20s or 30s. Her description does not match the description of Richard Allen, Rosie said. This is hilarious. But neither do the 3 girls who saw him on the trail, Liggett said. What a Dumbo. Absolute Dumbo. Exactly, Rosie said. Right. I bet he couldn't keep a straight face. So none of the witnesses, the sheriff has admitted that none of the witnesses saw Richard Allen. Oh dear. During a heated exchange over the timeline, Rosie accused Liggett of making up details. Liggett said a lab told him that if they had a Sig Sauer or Smith & Wesson, they could match the bullet to a gun. Well, arguably. But they couldn't exclude Brad Weber's, could they? No. Okay. During redirect, Carroll County prosecutor Nick McClelland asked Liggett if Allen's memory in 2017 about the timeline was likely the most accurate. Liggett agreed. You see, we'll never know, will we? Because Dan Dullard didn't record the conversation with Richard Allen, didn't check his phone or anything, and it was just cleared. You've only got yourselves to blame, but now you're missing a lot of details. During cross redirect, Rosie asked if it was likely Betsy Blair's 2017 memory of a man in his early 20s that was the most accurate. Liggett said yes. And then the cross-examination of Steve Mullin, who's already been on the stand previously, but he was back yesterday, 1:35 p.m. Defence Attorney Andrew Baldwin starts the cross-examination of Steve Mullin. He was the chief of police at Delphi PD at the time. You were so desperate to place Richard Allen's car travelling west on 300 North that just before lunch you lied to this jury. Baldwin provided a transcript that showed Allen may have gone west on 300 North. Well, that's what they're saying. Are they saying may not have gone west? It's a bit confusing. Baldwin accused Mullin of presenting his interpretation of Allen's statement as fact. We had already surmised it was his vehicle, Mullin said. We wanted him to confirm it. Baldwin said that Allen said he drove through town on his regular route, a loop to 300 West eastbound. Right, so that is wrong. So if he came in from the east, like from town, he wouldn't pass the Who's Your Harvey store camera. And it's interesting that his car, if it was his car that passed by at 1:27 p.m, was not caught coming out, like coming the way back. Mullin said that Allen said it was his possible route, yes. So he even told them what route he took. And they've just seen this vehicle and just assumed it was his. Baldwin recounted Mullin's deposition regarding the interview and Allen's route to the trails. According to the deposition, Mullin asked Allen twice if he took a different route to the trails. Allen ultimately told Mullin if he was going to the park, he'd go through town. Words matter, Baldwin said. Words on the stand matter, especially when words impact the timeline in a case like this. Mullin agreed. Allen also told you he could have been driving his other car that day. Yes, Mullin agreed. So we don't even know he was driving the Ford Focus. Him and Cassie had like two cars. You didn't tell the jury that, did you? Baldwin said. For your theory to work, Richard Allen's car would have had to be at the CPS lot between 1:30 and 4, right? Yes, Mullin said. Is there anything that would contradict this? Baldwin said. No, Mullin said. Well, the fact that he was coming into the trails from a different direction and not past the Who's Your Harvey store camera at all, and if he did, he was driving a different car possibly. What about the information from Betsy Blair? Does that look like a 1965 Mercury Comet? Baldwin asked. The prosecution objected, which was sustained. Were you the investigator who lost evidence? Baldwin asked. The prosecution again objected, and it was again sustained. Yeah. Sustained, deny, sustained, deny. That's all she can do. All she can do. She is trying her best to support her good friends in law enforcement, in the prosecutor's office. Absolutely sickening. Sickening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you either in the next video or from 9 a.m. Eastern for Leilani on this channel, and then from 8:30 Eastern on Michelle Watts or Sarah Boone, because they're starting early today. All right. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
There we are. Good girl. Good girl.